Hello, ASL families. Welcome to Open House 2020, where everything is just a little bit unusual. So tonight's open house is coming to you straight from my actual house. Over the summer, expecting that virtual learning would be at least a facet of our new school year, I spent quite a bit of time thinking about how I could build a virtual classroom to best meet the unique needs of an ASL program with instruction happening online, and this is where I ended up. We'll talk about all of that and the modifications being made for virtual learning in just a little bit. First, I want to share with you a little background about myself and the ASL program, and then get into what are we going to be learning this year. I'll also hopefully be able to answer many of your burning questions about policies and procedures to help us all have a successful school year with clear expectations. So let's get started. Just a little bit about who I am. My name is Colleen Gibbons, and I was born and raised right here in LaGrange. I am a hearing individual. I'm not deaf. I'm not hard of hearing, though I'm not totally sure that all my ASL 1 students have figured that out yet. After college, I came back to the area and I began teaching special ed at LT in 2009, and that was before an American Sign Language program even existed. Throughout the year in ASL class, we'll spend considerable effort increasing our ASL vocabulary, including all of these topics. Similarly to any other language course, we start ASL by learning lots of vocabulary and then slowly learning to apply it to a whole variety of situations. Throughout the course of the year, we'll also spend time learning about deaf culture and the deaf experience. Usually, we have to first learn that deaf culture exists, and then we can dive into all that is out there. There are so many topics that we can cover, and these are just a few of them. I found that these conversations on these topics encourage students to do just a little bit more work to open their eyes to the world around them. I think that some of the things they learn will come as a surprise to them, and I hope they're intrigued by this information enough to share what they're learning with you. I love hearing about those, hey mom, did you know? Conversations that happen at the dinner table based on things they heard in ASL class. Deaf culture and history topics are some of the only times that class will need to be conducted in English for my beginners. It is very difficult to lecture to students about history in a language that they don't speak yet. So those will be times when the microphone comes out and the voice goes on, and we will have English-based class discussions. Most class sessions outside of those times when we're talking about culture or history and I'm lecturing English, we have a pretty serious voices off policy in ASL. This allows us to establish an immersive language environment, which is the best way to learn a new language after all, and it's something that I expect students to be respectful of. This approach allows hearing students to experience just a tiny bit of what the world is like for a deaf individual who faces a communication barrier on a daily basis. We do have one policy that seems to be pretty unique to the ASL classes as it relates to interaction on Zoom. During class, it is an expectation that all students have their webcam on and focused on them during class time. Here's one that students always want to know about. What's the homework policy? Most of the work that we'll be doing, and especially work during our virtual time together, will be done in class, or at least started in class, and if you need more time to finish it, you can do it outside of class. Here's the part that we sometimes miss. The constant homework assignment from me is that you are reviewing vocabulary, both new and old, to improve your recall, your dexterity, your speed, because language is a cumulative experience. Just because we learned something in Unit 1 and now we're on Unit 4 doesn't mean we don't need that word anymore. It's a little bit of information about resources that exist for parents. Canvas is used as the location where most class information happens. When it comes to grading, the grades that are posted in Infinite Campus are the real grades. The Canvas grades are an assignment here, a quiz there, but it doesn't calculate correctly like it will in Infinite Campus. LT is rolling out some new grading policies. In following those policies, assignments that are not submitted within a day or so of the due date will be marked M for missing, And if a student does not do anything to remedy that in 2 weeks, the M's become zeros. Other new parts of this grading policy that I will be following this year include no group grades. I never had those. No extra credit. Sorry. And no curving. I never did that anyway. Parents, the best suggestion I can make to you is that you become an observer of your child in my Canvas class. So how do you do that? If you go to lions204.instructure.com, you'll end up on this landing page where students can sign into LT specific Canvas. Right here, there is a link, parent of a Canvas user. Click here for an account. Create an account for yourself. It will ask you for a pairing code so that you can verify that the child you're trying to follow is actually a child you know. Important. Your student can pull up that information on his or her Canvas account and share that pairing code with you, so you don't even have to contact the school to get that information. When it comes to absences, it is the student's responsibility to reach out, hopefully before an absence occurs, so that we can develop a plan and let them know what they're going to miss that day, but certainly after, to get makeup work and find out what they need to complete after having missed a class. One nice feature of Zoom is if and when it is appropriate, I can share a recording of a class that a child missed with that student to help them catch up on information. If at some point during the course of the school year your child begins to struggle in ASL class for any reason, there are quite a few different steps that you and your child can take to solve this problem. I constantly have up and running a Quizlet page, which is basically a giant deck of flashcards with English words on one side and moving pictures on the other side to help students learn new vocabulary, but mostly study. When I mentioned that implied homework is that they're reviewing vocabulary, this is a great tool for that. I have made lots of modifications to try to make this virtual learning environment as successful as a classroom environment would be. I count myself pretty lucky. I think sign language is one of those classes that translates pretty well to a virtual environment. It's not the same as being in the same room together, but we can still meet our course objectives virtually. I have made lots of modifications and adjustments to try and make this class work well in a virtual environment, and I'm sure I'll continue to try to be creative and come up with solutions to any problem that arises. One of the features that a lot of teachers are loving in Zoom is the screen sharing feature, where teachers can send what is on their screen to all the students' screens. That's one that your student might have noticed I don't use very often because it doesn't really work in the ASL environment. What happens when you screen share is my visuals go onto your student screens in a very large way, and me as the presenter becomes a tiny box in the corner. That's great for most classes, but when your child is trying to get all of the information available from my hands, and now my hands are 1/18 the size that they once were, I couldn't do that. So instead, I have set up this monitor that allows me to share visual information and tactily interact with the information, point and sign, and make those connections for students like I would in the classroom without compromising their ability to see me and my signs and my hands and all the details that go into building a sign. To benefit myself, in front of me, you can't see them, but I have two very large TVs so that I can see the little Brady Bunch squares of all your children and their hands and their even tinier fingers, and actually have a prayer of understanding what they're saying. So, as we learn, we roll and we enhance our technology to try to make this work for everyone. I am working on mastering my 2 mice and my 2 keyboards and all the madness that comes with that, but mostly I'm just really enjoying spending time with your kids on my TV screens and getting to know them as individuals and as signers, and I really am optimistic that we're going to have a great and productive school year despite all the craziness. If you ever have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me. My email is cgibbons, for Colleen Gibbons, @lths.net. And I look forward to working with you and your children for the entire year and hopefully beyond. Thanks so much. Good night.